We will start now chapter 12, which is about the digestive system and nutrition. For the digestive system, it is one of the most or one of the largest systems in the human body, and it is responsible for bringing nutrients into the body. It includes what is known as gastrointestinal tract or the GI tract. This GI tract is a hollow tube that starts with the mouth and extends all the way to the anus. So it starts from the mouth, passes through the stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and all the way to the anus. It has the lumen, which is the space within it, within the tract, that the food, nutrients, and later the waste pass through it. Now, along the organs connected through this tract, there are other organs called accessory organs, like the liver, pancreas, the gallbladder. Okay, these are not connected directly to the tract, meaning that the food does not pass through them. There is no food, for example, going to the liver. However, these accessory organs secrete enzymes and other factors that will help digesting the food. So we have essential organs and accessory organs. Now, a major characteristic of the digestive system or the GI tract is that its walls are made of same layers across the entire tract. So we have 4 layers that making the GI tract or the walls of the GI organs. From inside, of course, we have the lumen, and the first layer that is connected to the lumen or in contact with the lumen is something called the mucosa. This is the innermost layer, and as we said, the food is coming in contact with it since it's contacting the lumen. Above it, there is the submucosa. This is a connective tissue layer containing blood vessels, lymph vessels, and also nerves. Then we have the muscularis, and we have here 2 layers, mainly 2 layers. Only in the stomach we have 3 layers of smooth muscles arranged either in a circular shape around the lumen or in longitudinal shape along the tract. So these are the muscularis, and they are responsible for the motility of the digestive tract. And the last layer is the serosa. This is connective tissue for the outer covering. It protects and anchors the digestive organs along the tract. Along with that, there are within the lumen or coming into the lumen, there are the sphincters. These are like thick muscles or muscular rings that separate some of the organs, and we will see some of them. There are 5 basic steps or 5 basic processes to accomplish digestive system function. We have mechanical processing and movement, including chewing and mixing. We have secretion of fluids, digestive enzymes, bile acids, and the mucus. Then we have the digestion, which is the breaking down of food to smallest absorbable units, and this includes chemical and mechanical breakdown. Then we have absorption, which is occurring in the mucosa or through the mucosa of small intestine mainly. Nutrients and water move from the lumen into the blood or lymph vessels. And then we have the elimination, which is eliminating the undigested materials and needed materials in form of feces. So these are the 5 basic processes. Now, the food itself is pushed through the tract by 2 methods. The first one is called peristalsis. This is the propels the food forward, and then segmentation, which is mixing the food. This is peristalsis, pushing the bolus of food or the bite of food, for example, through the esophagus toward the stomach. Then we have here the segmentation. As you can see, this is the food. We are going to break it into two steps, then into two parts, then mixing and remixing it. That is the segmentation. Now let's see some organs or the organs along the GI tract. We will start with the teeth, and the teeth are responsible for biting and chewing the food. In children we have around 20 teeth. In adults we have 32 permanent teeth. Then we have the tongue, which is positions and tasting the food. It is made out of skeletal muscles, moves the food in the mouth. It has the taste receptors, and of course it's also important for speech. Then we have the salivary glands. They are secreting the saliva, and the saliva is made out of mucins, salivary amylase. This is an enzyme, bicarbonate, and lysosomes, all of which are performing different functions, and these are the main things that are making the saliva, and of course water. Most of the saliva is water. We have 3 salivary glands. It's up to you if you want to know them. Just understand what is the saliva and what does it do. Then we have the pharynx and the esophagus, and we talked about these when we explored the respiratory system. Now, once the food is within the mouth, it has to be swallowed. So swallowing would begin as the tongue is pushing the food toward the pharynx. There we have the epiglottis, which is going to cover the trachea. So no food, no solid objects, whether it's liquid or not, is going to go through the trachea. So the epiglottis would cover the trachea, as you can see here, and the food would be directed toward the esophagus. The food will be directed toward the esophagus. Once the food is there, it will go through the lower esophageal sphincter into the stomach. Now, in the stomach serves different functions. It is like a place for food storage. It's digesting of proteins, and it regulates the delivery of partially digested food into the small intestine. In the stomach, we have different cells producing different types of factors and enzymes. We have acid secreting cells. These are responsible for producing HCl, the hydrochloric acid. It's pH of 2, and this is very strong acid that is going to break down large bites of food. We have pepsinogen secreting cells. These are producing a proenzyme. It's called pepsinogen. That enzyme will turn into pepsin. Okay, and if you're wondering, or if the name like rings a bell, that is the same name as Pepsi. Okay, so Pepsi, the company, took the name of this enzyme and made it out into a soft drink. We have also mucus secreting cells. They are producing mucus to protect the lining of the stomach against the strong HCl. So this is like a kind of self-protection layer of the mucus. Lastly, we have some special cells secrete something called intrinsic factor. This intrinsic factor, actually it's produced by the same cells releasing the HCl, and intrinsic factor is important because it helps in absorbing vitamin B12. So the acid secreting cells produces HCl and also produce the the intrinsic factor. So these are different types of cells within something called the gastric pit. This is the gastric pit, the opening leading to something called gastric gland. Okay, and all of this is in the upper layer or the inner layer, which is the mucosa. Now, as we said, why doesn't the gastric juice digest the stomach lining? Because of the mucosa. In case that layer of a mucosa were worn out or damaged, then we will have a disease called peptic ulcer. Peptic ulcer is the destruction in the stomach wall because of the strong acid. And as we said, this is a result of damage or damaged mucus layer. So the mucus layer is gone, and therefore there is no protection against the gastric juice. Now, the stomach, when it contracts, it breaks down, mix the food, and that's form of mechanical and at the same time chemical breaking down of the food. Now, once the food is mixed inside the stomach, and remember, the food is coming through the esophagus, through the lower esophageal sphincter into the stomach, and there it will be mixed with the gastric juice. Now, once the food is mixed with the gastric juice, we will call it chyme. So this is chyme, which is the mixture, the watery mixture of the partly digested food and the gastric juice. And this chyme will be delivered to the small intestine through something called pyloric sphincter. So the stomach is controlled by two sphincters. The lower esophageal sphincter, this is one, and the second one is the pyloric sphincter. And as I said, the pyloric sphincter will controls the movement, is controlling the movement of the chyme to the small intestine. It usually takes between 2 to 6 hours for stomach to empty completely after meal. And it's very important to notice that in the stomach there is no absorption. Stomach does not absorb any nutrients. However, there are some materials can be directly absorbed or escape the stomach wall, like alcohol and aspirin and even honey. All can escape directly the stomach wall and go directly to the blood. Okay, I will stop here. Please post your comments, videos, or thoughts into the forum. When we come back, we will resume the talk about the other organs in the GI tract.